If we think about localization, I know that many different terms and ideas and concepts come up for different people depending on their experience and where they're located. But I guess the easiest way to describe it is localization is really the commitment and the move towards having decisions being made on the ground in the so-called global south. So decisions for humanitarian and development interventions, but also having the necessary capabilities and resources there. If we look historically at international development aid, it was very much dominated by the global north. Decisions would be made on that side, policies would be written, and then programs would be implemented, sometimes without the necessary input and participation of the organizations and communities on the ground. So localization is really about shifting that power and shifting the narrative to ensuring that people in the global south are really empowered and have the right voice and agency to determine how programs affecting them are being run, implemented, and also adjusted at times. Well, localization really matters from a couple of angles. First of all, if we look at the history of international aid and development, it is not a new concept, right? So clearly we knew already, 20, 30 years ago that decisions should be made on the ground. And we see that in different government policies, different commitments, such as the Charter for Change, for example, the INGO Code of Conduct, and even most recently the Grand Bargain. So there is, generally speaking, already quite a strong understanding that localization matters from, let's say, a policy institutional perspective. But if we bring it down or unpack that a little bit more, from an efficiency perspective, naturally, people on the ground will have a better ability to respond quickly to changes in the context, but will also have a more in-depth knowledge, contextual understanding of what is happening, which actors and factors are shaping changes taking place, and a better connection with the ultimate communities that are being served. Now, finally, you could also inject the moral argument into this, that decisions should be made by the people or the communities whom it impacts. So generally speaking, I would say localization really matters from those perspectives, right? From an institutional policy perspective, from an efficiency and allocation of resource perspective, and finally also from a moral engagement and agency perspective. Well, I would say when we look at localization, the thing that really reinvigorated the whole debate and the commitment was the 2016 Grand Bargain. And essentially the Grand Bargain brought together government agencies, international organizations to really look at how do we get resources into the hands of the people on the ground. So in total, the Grand Bargain was a combination of 51 different commitments, so that's already pretty impressive, and they're divided into 10 thematic work streams that focus on different areas, but really the fundamental thread or the thing tying all of this together is looking at how do we strategically align the way that we do development aid and programming, and how do we also together ensure that resources are where they are needed, and that is on the ground.
I think first, when you say localization, if I am sitting in a different country, what does that mean? Does it mean I have a job? I don't have a job? What is my role? What are we transferring? Are we saying that I have not been doing anything? Are we saying that my support is irrelevant? So I think first things first, we need to put the human being at the center of this conversation. I think it is very key to move it from just a broader conversation to what happens to me as an individual? What does it mean for me? So at organization level, what does it translate to? If I am a team leader, what am I telling my team? And as an individual, what does that mean for me when you come and say, now we are going with localization? We already have structures that support different systems within the organizations. We have financial management structures, operational structures. We have recruitment policies, some of which are not even done within the countries that we operate from. So exactly how do we start this process so that it's not just an arbitrary, vague conversation that we are going into, but we are actually realizing it in full effect? So the first thing we're going to be looking at is, what does localization mean for different actors, both state and non-state actors? For example, let's look at it at the institutional level. What does it mean for example, for different donors? What are we looking at? At an organizational level, what does it mean for all these international organizations? What changes are we looking to see for them? And then, of course, now at a tactical level, what do we need to do to move forward? That's one. Secondly, we're going to look at, where has it worked before? Why has it worked? Why hasn't it worked? Okay? And from there, then we can start to look at finally the emerging trends for success or lack of success, and how can we adapt those to be able to move forward. That is what we can expect during the webinar.